Hi there. Welcome to Real WW Talk. I am Erin.
I'm Candice.
And I'm Rikki.
Ladies, it is really good to see your faces today.
Great as always to see you guys.
We got a little springtime action happening today. It's like I feel like I don't know, I'm hitting my zone. I think I've been waiting for like spring to come alive, you know?
Birds are chirping, the sun is out, it's not too hot yet.
Yeah,
Yep.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
But allergies, if you have allergies, like my son, I mean, the pollen is the worst right now.
Terrible.
It's out of control.
My nephew was outside playing because, this is the best time to get them all outdoors. And after about 15 minutes, he came in and his nose was running. And he's like, I think I'm coming down with something. I think I'm coming down with a cold. And I'm like, buddy, those are allergies. Yeah. He's like, I don't like it.
Blame the trees. It's the trees' fault.
Why don't we do a quick check-in and just give a quick update of where we are and how things are going? Candice, you want to tell us who goes and does what?
Yeah, actually, Rikki, you'd be the first one because we had Erin started off the last time. So.
Well, I'm doing well. A few weeks post my trip to California, and I survived. And it was tough. It was a lot of walking. My friend that I stayed with didn't have a car, and she's not the type to just the purpose of not having a car is to save money. So it's not like you're going to Uber everywhere. If you can walk, you'll walk. It was cold in the part of California I was in. I was in the Bay Area. So
I don't ever think of the words cold in California together.
I know. The temperature in Maryland at the time was, I think, like 70s, 80s. It was like that weird week where we had that like hot weather after it had been like really cold. And so I had to get used to that. But it had one day where I think I want to say 17,000 steps, but I don't think that's accurate. I think it was more like 12 or 13.
Still amazing.
Yeah. 1,000. And it was a lot. So I got a lot of walking in. It made me realize the importance of having good shoes because I would pack sneakers, but they were not the type that you want to be walking in all day. So that was a big takeaway. And I enjoyed, a little bit of wine and Napa, but I felt like I tried the things that I wanted to try because I was in a unique area. Like Tex-Mex is really good, or not Tex-Mex, but Mexican food is pretty good up there, and Chinese food. So I tried the things I wanted, but I never felt like I overindulged. So that was a really nice takeaway to say, I can travel, I can enjoy things, but it wasn't all about the food, and I got a lot of steps in. So just still thinking about that and how much fun it was.
You're so ready to go back, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll go tomorrow. I can book a flight.
It's all about the flight. Well, I just heard so many wins. Like, it's not about the food. Like, perfect little Weight Watcher member, like who's living life and having balance. It should be a commercial because that's exactly what you want is to be able to go and enjoy yourself, have the things, and for it to not be that big of a deal. That's always what I strive for. I'm glad you had so much fun.
Thank you.
And got an exercise and the walking because I know that was a big concern.
Yes, there was one major hill in San Francisco, but I did it. I did have to stop and take breaks. But I made it up there and got to see the painted ladies, which are the full house, row houses. So it was worth it. But I think that's the other takeaway too. It's not to push yourself, like listen to your body. If you're feeling like you can't keep going at that moment, but you can push yourself a little further and a few minutes later, then do it. Because the worst thing is to be stuck in another country or across the country. And having to, go to the hospital or something because you overexerted yourself. So that's another thing I am proud of myself of. It's not that, I tried not to be hard on myself because of it.
Listen to your body.
Yeah.
Because you want to keep doing more of it.
Yes.
And it's not going to, beating yourself up on it isn't going to help mentally or physically.
Exactly.
You had mentioned too, coming back from vacation, like that would set you up for like more walking. Have you continued that post? Because I know you were on you've been on a really great streak going on.
I have been doing a mixture, not as much walking as I'd like, but I have been getting out there a couple days a week. So I do want to increase it more than that and be more consistent with it. But now that the weather is nice here too, I'm definitely going to be more consistent about regular walking. My goal is to do 4-5 times a week getting out there.
That's awesome. And I know right now though, because allergies and asthma for you, which has always been a thing in the past. I saw this thing that talked about knowing your body's cycles throughout the year, right? And like that we quarterly will go through different cycles, and a lot of it has to do with the weather. And like I know for me in the wintertime, like it gets like really, really down, but like now I'm really, really up. I'm not affected by asthma like you are. So even though it's the pollen, I'm like, I'll just pop 2 Advil for the headache and keep going. I'll run through the green cloud. But you know, everybody's got a different way of approaching it and being part of it.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Rikki. I'm glad for you.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Candice, are you next?
Sure. Yeah. It goes in a circle. Well, I am adjusting very, very well to stay-at-home mom. I think we mentioned that a couple episodes ago that I am now home with my baby boy. And let me tell you, you get a whole lot. I mean, I think I've gotten more movement, you know, being home. And I was home, you know, with the pandemic, I had been working from home for a lot of the time, but it's different from when you're totally 100% focused on like family and home projects and other things. So I've had to let go of perfection because I still love my to-do list, as I mentioned, and there's been things I added and I didn't get to. And the beauty of letting things roll over to another day, I've been able to get outside a lot. My steps have been like off the charts because I'm just running around after a toddler who doesn't believe in sitting still. So it's been good. It's been very, very good. All of my energy is back from, you know, I'm post-treatment, you know, just kind of maintaining. So yeah, it's just, but I feel like I am slowly but surely getting to that new normal, you know, where I can say I've settled in. Not there yet, but it's coming.
Well, it's kind of like what we talked about a couple weeks ago about routines. And sometimes you just gotta kind of find your way through and be willing to let go of some things. And I love hearing from you it's okay to let some things roll over.
Yeah. Even if it's a lie that I'm saying, like I don't feel it in my spirit. I'm just saying the words. My therapist said if I say it enough, maybe I'll start to believe it. Because I do still, if I'm honest, I feel the guilt at the end of the day where I'm like, oh, I needed to go and insert this thing from Target that I should have been able to fit in. Well, tomorrow Target is open and you can go and get it. The store isn't gone forever. Target will always be there. So I have to be able to be flexible. So the word of the day for this season for me is flexibility. And I've started potty training my little guy. And if any mothers are listening or aunts or cousins, that requires flexibility because I tried to keep him on a schedule. I have charts and stickers and he is not having it for certain things. So send help. You all want to tell me any tips or tricks? I'm open right now because I'm a little frustrated. But that's
what I love is everybody's got their tips and tricks, but I'm like, it literally just worked for your kid. Every kid is different.
And he has a little bit of he's just a little smart aleck. Like he knows what I want. And he's like, not going to do that today.
Can I say something though? Because I feel like, again, I've never been a stay-at-home mom, but I feel like your activity level and the things that you are doing are, some of it's a choice. Like, yeah, you have to chase Isaiah if he's running towards the stairs, or yeah, you have to like go to the store. But I think you have made a choice to be active too. Yeah. So you are still going on the Peloton. You are, you know, probably taking extra steps, going up and down the steps to make sure that you are getting things. And when someone else might say, like, I'm tired, I'll go up the stairs and get XYZ later. So I think you should give yourself credit. I don't think it's just about the routine of being a stay-at-home mom. I think you're also making choices within that routine to be an active person So
I thank you for saying that, because I do sometimes struggle with reminding myself that I am making those choices, because I'm waking up, I've always loved morning exercise. So, well, I love the result of morning exercise. I don't necessarily love waking up at 5 a.m., but I've been
Mhm.
able to do it with relative consistency because I like how I feel afterwards.
Mhm.
And my day doesn't really allow me for exercise in the evening. I always knew that. And so making those choices, like you said, Rikki, it really has been a choice. So I am proud of that. And that it's been more often than not. Not every day, but more
Mhm.
often than not. So
That's great.
I even
all of
just love
these
you saying
wins.
that is more often than not, because it's not striving for perfection.
Mhm.
It's, like we talked about the habits book, Atomic Habits. It's that
Mhm.
1% difference,
Yeah.
and we're not going for perfection. We're just trying to go for, what's the next best thing. So
And the only thing I'd share too is I got on a meeting, one of the virtual meetings. I cannot remember the name of the coach, but he was talking about perfectionism and how he finally hit his goal with Weight Watchers when he let go of being perfect. And
mm,
he said it was the one thing that he changed that he had been holding on to so tightly was the perfection.
Mhm.
And gosh, when
wow.
I will think of his
Michael?
name and let you know. No, it wasn't
Was
Michael.
it Michael? Okay.
No, but anyway, but the point is that it really, touched me, because I was like, I get you. You and I are one. He said, but you have to let go of it because it allows you the freedom to actually hit the things that you
Mhm.
want when you aren't requiring something that you just can't do. So anyway, that's that.
Yay.
What about
Mhm.
you,
I love that.
Erin? How have you been?
A little whirlwind, a little bit of whirlwind. Trying to prepare for honestly some big work things that are coming up. Got my trip to Israel is now in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, and so just trying to get ready for that, and all of the pieces that come along with helping out on a 50-person trip. Like, so it's a little bit of a kind of a vacuum, and then I just have some other things that are kind of happening in my life. So, it's the same old for me. I'm not going to tell you anything you all haven't even heard 5 million times. So,
Are you still doing
um,
your walking?
still, I actually haven't been able to do that because of some other things, but I did go yesterday, and so that felt really good. And I did get myself another pair of the UFAS. Uh, and they
Ooh.
came out with a new design. These are shoes for people who have plantar fasciitis issues. They
Mhm.
are super comfortable, like one of the
Yeah.
best things. And somebody had mentioned them in our Real WW Talk Facebook group. And you're welcome to join it. Just search for Real WW Talk on Facebook. And they're not inexpensive shoes. These are, I think, like $139, but they
Mhm.
were so worth it. And so they have the standard ones, and they have new ones they introduced called Sport, which just have a little bit of a slimmer foot profile. The other ones have a little bit, like they talk about like the natural gait. Have you guys seen a lot of those shoes that like let your toes spread out, and they're like the front of the
Oh,
toes just look a little
yeah.
more, they look a little hobbit feet like to me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So this is not as drastic as some of those, but that's when I look at them, I'm like, that's a little weird. But both pairs I have are super, super comfortable. So I've been doing a lot of walking to try and break them in before going on the trip. And it's like all the stuff that I've got to prepare for, because I realized I don't really have like summer travel clothes
Mhm.
Mhm.
that are appropriate, because we're going to a lot of like the holy sites, and so those you need to have your knees covered and your shoulders covered. And I'm like, I've got Baltimore summer for sitting out here in front, and so I'm like, I got to go out shopping. I got to go buy capris. I don't have capris anymore. I gave so much of it away,
Mhm.
from COVID, and I'm like, great, I have no clothes. So yeah, so there's that. So I get to do some shopping, and
Mhm.
it's nice to be able to fit into it and find clothes to be able to wear. So
Well,
Well,
we expect a
apparently,
fashion show.
yeah, and
That's all.
apparently linen pants and capris are back in style, so perfect
yes,
timing.
And Rikki would
yes.
know, because don't ask me what's in style, 'cause I would be
Rikki's our fashion queen. She knows.
I'd be like, "You'll find something. You can do it."
I I did have to over the weekend go to a funeral,
Mm.
and I was pulling out like clothes that I had stored away of like dress slacks, and I'm like, one, can I fit into these things? And I put them on. I'm like, I could wear them. They're a bit snug, but I could wear them. But the best part, you guys, is they're all boot cut.
Mm.
And I'm like, my gosh, my pants are back in style.
Yeah.
They're back in style.
But the big thing is this, you can button them, but can you sit and sit comfortably? Because
And
that
that
is the worst. When you have
Mhm.
a pair, you're like, if I stand up and just
That's
I'm
right.
good.
Here's the
Don't ask
thing.
me to sit.
If I sat and people saw me crying, they would think I was crying because I'm at the funeral, and it would be probably a mix of both. My stomach circulation's going, and I am sad. So
That's when people are like, you have such great posture. You're like, look,
Like,
just leave it be. Leave it be.
exactly. Well, I wanted to, Rikki, you had brought something up that you heard in a meeting, and I thought,
Mhm.
wow, this is a cool thing that we should
Yeah.
talk about. And it's about being too dependent on support.
Mhm. Yeah, this isn't the first time I've heard this sentiment, but I went to a meeting over the weekend and there was a member who hadn't been in the meetings for a while. She expressed that she hadn't been there and how she was just very hurt by the changes with WW, as a lot of people were a lot of mixed feelings. But she expressed to the leader, like, I'm so glad that you're here. And if you weren't here, I would have just turned around and left, and not come back. And this leader was very poised and said, but hey, it's not about me. Like, and don't quit in my name because this meeting, this platform is not meant for, us to be dependent on, one person or one thing. Because the program changes, there's different changes with, you know, the style and the implementation and the point system, and leaders change. Leaders go have children and decide that they're going to take a break, or they changed fields, or there was one leader that I really enjoyed who had got a promotion within WW that involved working for corporate, and she stopped doing meetings. So um, I guess the question that came from that for me is, can we be too dependent on supports? And what does that look like, and how can we set ourselves up for more success on the program? It's great to have so many great resources, but is it possible to be too dependent on either a leader or a resource in WW?
And my answer, I thought that's such a great topic, and my mind didn't go necessarily to a leader, because we've had, even within our group, Saturday Columbia, we've had
Mhm.
leader changes and people process change, differently. We've talked about that. I was thinking about when you have support, when you have your Weight Watchers buddy, or the person who you're doing the
Mm.
program with, and they may go off track, and it can sometimes cause you
Mhm.
to say, well, they've thrown in the towel. I don't have my friend anymore. I can't walk because they're not walking.
Mhm.
That is something that I had to be very, very mindful of on my journey, because I would always develop these Weight Watchers friends or these weight loss friends, and they would go in and out of being on plan. And I was always very affected by how on plan they were. I had to make a decision to say just what the leader said, Rikki, that
Mhm.
whether or not someone is here or there, if they're doing what they're supposed to do or not, that really shouldn't have an impact on what I know I need to do for myself, because really that's an excuse.
Mhm.
Nothing's changed in my world other than the fact that this person isn't doing whatever they're doing that I thought I needed. But I acknowledge that that's difficult, because I think sometimes we need that camaraderie, and when that leaves, it can be tough. So
Mhm.
I relate to it, but I do think that I had to accept that it was an excuse that I was using,
Mhm.
because nothing changed in my world.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, right along those lines, and you realize, like, wow, this is a really codependent thing, that I am pushing my success actually onto someone else, when it's up to me one way or the other.
Mhm.
And it's where you start to realize, man, how the excuses that I have in my life around things and why I can't do something. Well, it's someone else's fault. Like, no, this is yours. This is yours to own. And I remember that happening. I remember that happening in our meetings, and also kind of wondering, like, when our meeting coaches would never say when they weren't going to be there that next week. They get to
Mhm.
take vacations, they get to go do things, and we'd show up, and we'd have somebody who wasn't that person, and they weren't allowed to tell us that they were going away. They were forbidden from telling us to go away. Why? Because the journey isn't supposed to be about them as coaches. It's supposed to be about you as a person. So I love that
Mhm.
WW even recognized it all of those years ago, that people would just not show up. because they were putting too much of their success on the coach as opposed to owning it for themselves.
I remember when that would happen, it's, you come in and be like, oh, it's not my regular person. But then, like 9 times out of 10, you really did enjoy the meeting. Like sometimes there's personalities that are different. It's, you're not going to mesh with every single substitute kind of person that comes in. But 9 times out of 10, you stay for the meeting and you're like, this wasn't bad. I got something out of this. So again, it could have been an excuse to walk out the door if you said, oh, so-and-so's not here, I'm going to leave. But most of the time when you stay, you're not going to regret it. And you get something out of it.
Well, I think it goes back to what we talk about again with change, because change can be good, even if it's for a period of time, whether it be for a week because it's a new leader or a new coach, or if it's for a lifetime because the person who you were depending on for whatever thing has left and gone to a new thing. Because that, I know that type of permanence can be difficult when somebody completely goes away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, this is no longer a part of my life or my journey. I've switched plans. I'm going to do Atkins. I don't know, whatever it is, but it's very permanent. Mm-hmm. I think that it forces you to look at why you joined in the first place and what your why was that brought you in the door. Because I think when I was externally validated, a lot of times my journey was tied to maybe people pleasing in others and needing others to be there to help validate my success. So when people would leave and go in and out, it forced me to rely on myself. Right.
Yes.
And that's kind of new. It's not, it's scary because it's new. But it also was very, very exciting when I was able to allow myself to not control others in their journey, because sometimes you want to say, well, Rikki, Erin, you all have to do it exactly the way that I do it. We've had different versions of, like, some of us are still going to meetings. Rikki, you may say, I can only do online right now because of what my job is doing. It's like, but we should allow each other the flexibility to be able to do the things the way that we need to do it. Because like you said, it's a form of control to say, Erin, if you don't do it exactly like this, you're going to ruin my life. You're going to ruin the way that I do things. Right. I can't handle it. And you're like, but I have other things that I have to do. Like, this is just what it's going to be. So that's to me a separate issue that you have to look at too, right? It's how can I find that internal motivation if somebody does completely go? It is definitely something that has been brought up so many different times. We've seen, I'm just thinking of all the different times that this has happened in the umpteen years that we've been here. Yeah. And it's always the same reaction. I mean, there's tears, there's shock, there's awe, and then eventually people get into the new normal and they're okay. Right.
One of the things that I notice about myself is that, and especially early on with WW, because, trying to address some core issues. And for me, it was giving up really easily and feeling and letting myself down, honestly. And I remember there was a point where I asked myself, well, what if you don't give up right now? What if you choose not to in the face of whatever this thing is? What if you actually just decided to see what would happen if you kept going? And sometimes I think that's what it's like when this type of thing happens. Like, well, okay, it would be really great if my friend did this with me, but what if I just kept going? What would happen if I kept doing this? Because I'm doing this for me. And I think, was it Candice or Rikki? Which one of you started talking about your why, knowing what your why is? And
Candice.
Your why. Yeah, keeping your why close by, because now you're making it personal. The minute you start making that journey personal, you now create ownership over it, which can be a scary thing, because now if it fails, you're the reason it failed, because you didn't adhere to your agreement of what you were going to do. You can't pass it off onto somebody else now, right? You've now got to be responsible for you and you showing up, and it's your success on it or your failure. And it's okay to say your failure and even put it on the table.
Yeah. I think that's why it's so important to know yourself in this process, because I think about other things that fear brings when something like that, when change happens, like if it's the walking scenario with your walking buddy and you completely give up one activity because the walking buddy stops. I think sometimes like that makes you kind of evaluate your friendship, because it's like, are we still going to be friends if we don't do this together? Like, how is our relationship going to change? And that fear can also, make you afraid and make you kind of hold on to something or be kind of begrudging about something changing, because, relationships can change when routines change. So I think that's another thing you have to know about yourself. Like, I need to have confidence in this friendship continuing despite it changing. Or, maybe you have to let go of it and say, like, this person is moving, or this person is just doing something different, and we don't have anything in common. That's okay. Or make it, say, hey, maybe we can do something else together. But I think knowing the source too of the frustration is important.
And I also think acknowledging what it may bring up in yourself about your resistance to change. There might be some things that you wanted to change, and the other person had the guts, I guess, maybe to change it for themselves. And so you're left kind of like, well, I didn't want to walk at 6 a.m. anyway, but you changed it first. And now, I don't know, like, I guess I could, but I don't like change. And now I'm being forced to deal and reckon with the fact that I can also make changes in my life that I may have been resistant to do. Like you brought up, in true Candice overwhelm being extra fashion. I'll never forget when I graduated from high school and all of my friends are going to different colleges. And I was like, no, everybody needs to stay in the area, because what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to talk? And my best friend at the time was like, yeah, it was the song, right? And me, I'm crying. And my friends are like, I'll see you at Thanksgiving. Just, you need to chill out. Like, I'm going to Illinois and you will be fine. And I'm like, but Illinois is so far away. But she went. We dealt with it. But really what it made me think about is, why am I so afraid to leave the area? I didn't like how it made me challenge the thoughts that I had about what I needed, and the fact that I was resistant to change out of fear. So you have to look and examine too, what does the change, or what does that bring up in you that you may need to process, not just with a therapist. Not everybody needs a therapist like me, but it could be just an internal prodding to yourself to say, why do I feel like I need to keep that routine or keep that thing? Why am I so resistant to that change? What does it mean to me?
No, I think that's a really great point, because anytime we have a strong reaction to something, it's unlocking something in us. And we have a friend and I kind of have this saying that I borrowed from him, Jack. I give Jack credit because he'll want to trademark it, and he can't trademark it because now I've stolen it. The thing is not the thing. So this thing that obviously is producing this strong reaction in this moment is a thing, but it's not the thing. There's a thing underlying that is actually the thing that's bubbling this up into why we're having this reaction. And 9 times out of 10, they're not even really tied together, but maybe it's a fear of abandonment. It's a fear of loss. It's a fear of change, or, gosh, everybody's expecting you to be flexible in all these other areas. And here's one place where you don't have to be flexible. And suddenly I've got to now be flexible here too. Right. Like and the root of that is inconvenience. I'm tired of being inconvenienced. Right. So it's even, to the greater point of what you're saying, Candice, is like digging deep of what's the reason behind this? Why do I feel this way? Why am I reacting so strongly to WW's changes? Is it because I've found family and community in WW, and now I feel like my family and my community is threatened? Is that more, and because my family and my community here is threatened, it means loss of love and loss of relationship. And that reminds me of over here where I don't have love and relationships that I want to be able to have. And WW has been a place that's fulfilling it for me. Like the following the full trend there. So I love that kind of stuff, like follow the trail. Like, why is this bothering me so much in this moment?
And when can we acknowledge that we're creatures of habit and that, what when you're going to your point, Erin, if the difference is just with our meeting, it's a change of scenery. I know with some who are in our community, they really have lost their meetings. But I was thinking about our Saturday meeting where it's just a location change, but same people, prayerfully who may show up, but the location is different. And there are some who still are not going to be okay with that because it's change. And you have to look and say, why is it that it has to be at this studio for me to feel like everything's okay?
Right. Yeah.
Everybody else is the same. They're just in this place,
Yeah.
And I think it forces you to really take a good look and then say, am I being a brat? Just say, for me.
Yes.
Well, for me, am I being a brat, or is it really something?
Right.
And I think this is a word that we've used before, but am I catastrophizing? And I feel like, am I thinking of the worst case scenarios that could happen in the future? Like, oh, this move means this, and that could mean this, and then A, B, and C connect here, and like you got a flow chart in your head of all the possible horrible scenarios that could happen. And you're freaking out about something that hasn't happened. So I think that's sometimes where our minds go, because we like to plan and we like to know the future, even though we can't predict the future. And we tell ourselves this means something else, when yes, there's behind the scenes things we don't know, but factually what we've been told, what we know is that Columbia meeting is no longer in this location, it's in this location. Why can't we take that for what it is? We just take it as, this means that this meeting is gone forever. It's just gone. But it's here right now. It's here.
I was going to give myself a win that if I weigh in at this new center, that if it's up, that I'm going to blame the new place. I'm going to be like,
the scales don't work at this place.
At least for the first month. I'm going to be like, I don't trust those numbers.
Please. I'll end with this. Is one of my favorite. It's not a Bible proverb. It's just one of a proverb. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape.
Gotta love it.
I love that. I have that on repeat in my mind because I catch myself being sometimes inflexible, and I'm like, you can be flexible in this, Branham. Just get along with it. Get along with it. Wow, Rikki, that's a great topic. That's just a great thing to bat around and really just check ourselves and go, are we depending too much on something to be something that it's not meant to be? And we're placing, again, misplaced expectations on something when we need to be assuming the responsibility for it.
Great conversation, ladies.
That's it.
As always.
That's it. All right. Well, we appreciate hanging out with you and you hanging out with us. If you want to watch this, you can always join our Real WW Talk Facebook group. Just search Real WW Talk on Facebook, or come over to YouTube. Search Real WW Talk there. And if you'd rather pop us in your pocket and go for a walk, search for our podcast. Just use Real WW Talk to find us there as well. And then, of course, we've got Instagram too, which Rikki is pretty much the queen of on Instagram. So guess how you can find us
as well.
And we are on Connect. Now, Connect, you can't search Real WW Talk. Everything else, you have to search our Connect handles, and we will we'll put those in the show notes. But I am at Erin's World.
And I'm at Candy Girl 08.
And I'm at Radiantly Rikki.
Bing, bing, bing.
We had to make it different. We had to have something that wasn't Real WW Talk. So
right, exactly. That's how you know how long I've had my thing. My handle has been since the dawn of Connect, and I'm like, I should probably go change that.
I'm just really proud I still have the same username for all that time. So anyway,
yes,
that's a whole other episode.
Right. All right. Have a great week. Bye.